You're passing through New York City before heading back upstate. As you pass a side street, you hear someone loudly giving a speech at a busy intersection.
That class of aliens who aspire to be lawgivers and rulers in America are becoming too powerful. If democracy means universal suffrage or the right of all men to take control of the state without regard to their intelligence, morals, or principles, I am no Democrat.
You carry on down the street, but someone nearby nudges you and says,
"Did he just say the Irish are ignorant and wicked? That they shouldn't be allowed to vote? He sees no wickedness in that idea? I never thought I'd get treated so badly here. Maybe I should have gone to Canada."
Today, we'll be talking about the millions of people who immigrated, or moved their family, to live in the United States in the 1830s, 40s, and 50s. Our learning objectives today are to explain why millions of people immigrated to the United States during the early 19th century, summarize where immigrants settled and what they were like, and describe the impacts of the 19th century wave of immigration. All reasons for migration can be boiled down to two types: push factors, or reasons to leave a place, and pull factors, reasons to move to a particular place. Most immigrants who moved to the United States between the 1830s and the 1850s were from Ireland, Germany, and Great Britain. The largest groups came from Europe, but there were also smaller groups from China, Mexico, and as many as 80 other nations around the world. So, what were the push factors? Let's start with the Irish, who faced a crop disease known as potato blight. Because potatoes were Ireland's primary food crop, the blight had many negative impacts across the country. Crop failures led to high prices for food that most people couldn't afford. Farmers were out of work and had nothing to sell. Many people died of starvation, while others suffered an economic depression. Almost half of Ireland's population was pushed to relocate to the US in the decade that followed. In Germany, supporters of democracy failed in their attempts to revolt and reform their government, leaving powerful dukes and lords in charge. Many common people had little to no ability to participate in lawmaking through voting or serving in government offices. Poor people in Great Britain suffered from high taxes, expensive rent, and a lack of access to farmland. That meant it was hard for impoverished people to make a living. These push factors led many from Germany and Great Britain to migrate, just as the Irish had. But why did they go to the United States? The pull factors, as they often are, were solutions to the problems that made people want to leave their homes in the first place. The United States had lots of cheap land, lower taxes, and an abundance of food and work. Democratic norms like the freedom of the press and voting rights were already written into the U.S. Constitution. Add in the news of the California gold rush, and the United States truly seemed like a land of opportunity to people from all over the world. In total, almost 5 million immigrants moved to the United States between 1830 and 1860, accounting for more than 10% of the nation's population. Irish immigrants primarily settled in eastern states. Most were Catholics, had low levels of education, and were poor. Most had to settle in whatever port city they arrived in and look for work because they had no money to travel further. Many men took jobs building railroads and canals. Household chores and childcare were common jobs for Irish women. German immigrants had a different profile. They were mostly Protestants, but also included Catholics and Jews. They spoke German, creating a language barrier. They were more likely to be educated and have job skills and money in their pockets, allowing them to settle in Midwestern states where there was more land available. Farming was popular, though many became craftsmen like tailors, cabinet makers, and blacksmiths. In the South, most of these jobs were done by enslaved workers, so both groups of immigrants settled more commonly in northern states. Although many in the United States didn't embrace the concept at the time, one of our strengths as a nation is our ethnic diversity. The U.S. is often called a melting pot society because of the representation of so many cultures from around the world. Much of that diversity was a result of immigration during the 19th century. Another positive impact was additions to the workforce. Many immigrants brought skills and knowledge that helped stimulate local economies. At the very least, the sheer number of new workers sped up both the Industrial Revolution and the Transportation Revolution. And these new workers were also new customers, allowing American businesses to grow and thrive. There were also negative effects of 19th century immigration. One of those effects was nativism, a belief that a majority group of people born in a country is its rightful ruling group, usually paired with a negative opinion of immigrants and high levels of immigration. In many cases, it was based on race or ethnicity. White came to mean Protestant people with British ancestry only. Other groups like Irish, Germans, Italians, Jews, and others who might be considered white today were commonly and openly discriminated against by employers and landlords. Nativism could also be based on cultural or religious practices. Many Protestants criticized Irish Catholics and believed Protestants should be in charge. They compared the Pope, a worldwide leader, to a monarch, and viewed Catholicism as a threat to democracy. Some even associated German and Irish immigrants with drinking, illiteracy, and crime. But where did these views come from? Nativists reacted to other pressures, like immigrants working for lower wages, which made it harder for native-born citizens who expected a higher wage to get the same job. They did not want immigrants to be allowed to live and work among them, leading to some of the discrimination. They also aimed to restrict immigrants from becoming citizens to make it harder for them to vote. Finally, some consequences may not be positive or negative at all. One consequence of this wave of immigration was that many people settled in northern states where work and land were readily available. This led to a gap in population between regions. Northern states had more inhabitants than southern states. Over time, this gave northern states more representation in the House of Representatives. How do you predict this would affect politics moving forward? In the 19th century, millions of immigrants from all over the world flocked to the land of opportunity, the growing United States of America. They had their reasons, be it famine, unemployment, or lack of political power. And there were many reasons to come specifically to the U.S., including cheap land, gold, factory work, and voting rights. Mostly Irish Catholic and German Protestant immigrants arrived between 1830 and 1860, taking a wide variety of jobs, from low-paying factory and railroad work to small businesses selling finely crafted goods and farming. Fear of not finding work or being replaced in their community by people of a different culture pitted nativists against immigrants. Other effects included population growth, especially in the north, growing ethnic diversity, and a huge influx of workers. Next time, be on the lookout for social reform movements that helped improve the quality of life for many Americans. Until then, historians, remember to always be clever.
Hey!